is Dr. Portia Rawls, and I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. And today, first of all, I just want to welcome you. Today is Monday, and on my blog, on my video blog, I call that Magnificent Monday. So today, first of all, before we get started, just if any of those who tune in, if you can just invite your family and your friends to join us. Today we're going to continue our focus on disappointment for the month of August. We've been focusing on the topic of disappointment. And for today, yes, okay, got some persons that have joined in. Welcome. Glad you're able to join me. Tell your family and friends. So today what I want to focus on, the topic is called Disempowering Disappointment. On last week, we talked a little bit about how to respond to disappointment, how to deal with it. But today, I want to really focus on what happens after the disappointment, after you've experienced a time of disappointment. How do you disempower that thing? And what I mean by disempower, one of the things you'll notice a lot of times when we deal with blaming ourselves a lot of times, we will continue to just think about that thing over and over again. What could I have done differently? We tend to go through these times of regret. Maybe if I hadn't done this particular action or responding in that way, I wouldn't be at this point where my expectations were not met. So there's a variety of thoughts and emotions that we deal with when we constantly continue to focus on the disappointment and play it over and over and over again in our minds. And what that actually does, it actually gives that disappointment power in your life. It gives it, and how does that play out when you actually allow the disappointment you've experienced to have power? What you will find is that your decisions, that your beliefs about yourself, even if depending on the nature and the severity of the disappointment, even beliefs about other people's, even beliefs about your goals and your aspirations, all of that will begin to be negatively affected when you allow disappointment to continue to have power in your life. So today I want to give you some strategies for disempowering that disappointment so that it doesn't continue to affect your decision making, your beliefs about yourself, your beliefs about those around you. And people say, well, how can my disappointment affect my beliefs about those around you? If you dealt with a situation of disappointment and it really focused on someone not doing something that you were anticipating or expecting them to do, you can get pretty jaded about life and about people in general. You can begin to say, you know, they're not dependable, they're not trustworthy, they're always going to disappoint you. And the next thing you know, before you realize that you're isolating yourself, you're distancing yourself from people, or your relationships become really superficial. They're not intimate, and I don't mean sexual intimacy, I mean emotional intimacy. And the next thing you know, you're in this box, and you don't even realize you're in this box, relational box. You're in this black box, and you don't even realize even how you got there. And that's just one small example how when you don't disempower disappointment, how it can have a significant effect on your life. So what are some of the steps for disempowering disappointment? The first thing is that you need to let go. And I know that sounds very simple, but you need to let go. You need to let go, trust, relax, let it go. Okay, it's over with. It happened. There is nothing, unfortunately, I wish, like so many of us, we could go back and change some things in our past. But once that event has happened, let it go, okay? And stop trying to make something happen. Stop trying to correct it. It may be a situation that you really can't correct. And when you put that pressure on, I got to make this thing happen, I got to get it right, oh, I got to get it right this time, that puts a lot of stress on us as human beings. So let it go. Oh, hello from Brazil. Thank you very much. Thank you for tuning in. Let it go. Just let it go. And that requires trust. Now, I know there's some folks on there listening to me today that may have a faith background and some may not be. But however you find your way to build trust and belief in that things are going to be better, things are going to work out, it's going to be better tomorrow. Whatever way you continue to stay in a place of optimism, whatever it is that you use to keep you in that place, that's what you need to rely on. That's what you need to focus on. So the first thing, release, let it go, relax, stop putting pressure on yourself to correct it and make it happen. The second thing is, what did you learn from that period of disappointment? What good came out of that period of disappointment? What did you learn? What can you take into the future that's actually going to possibly make future situations in your life better? That's going to make you a better person. Even hard, difficult times, if we really take a moment and step back, there's always something positive and good we can learn from that situation. If it's nothing more than don't do that again. That's still positive. That's still putting you forward towards achieving and towards being successful. So that's the second way you disempower disappointment. The third way is something that I'm going to continue to say probably until I leave the face of this earth in dealing with this subject of disappointment. You have to go back and rehearse your successes. Thank you so much for joining in. You have to go back and look at the times that things worked out. Look at the times when you were on top of the world. Look at the times when you had it all together, as we like to say. You got to stay there, especially during times of disappointment, because the natural human tendency is for us to focus on what's going wrong. And when you're trying to disempower disappointment, you got to focus on when things went right and what's going right in your life now. Because everything in your life is not bad. You may be, some of you that is listening to me today, you may be going through some really difficult times. In various areas, and somebody just popped up the question, how do you handle disappointment for those that are close to you? If people who are close to you have dealt with disappointment, what you can do is you can tell them what I'm telling you. Number one, stop dwelling on it. Number two, look at the good or the positive, what you learned that has come out of it. Number three, look at how you can begin to make some changes. There may be some things you do make with yourself. What are some changes that, hey, I can make myself a better person? Not necessarily correcting that disappointment, because that's where we get stuck in the rut. When we're trying to bring about change in ourselves personally, changing ourselves professionally, changing our relationships, a lot of times when we've just experienced a time of disappointment, we will connect that to that disappointment. Well, if I make this change, then maybe that disappointment will get corrected. No, make the change for the future. Make the change for going forward. And for those of you, if someone close to you has disappointed you, you got to make a decision. Depending on that person's relationship with you, you may have to decide, hey, is this a person that I want to keep in my life? Depending on your history. Are they constantly disappointing you? And what is that disappointment about? So that's a whole nother Periscope thing that I could spend a lot of time, and maybe I would do that next when those close to you disappoint you. But there's several questions you have to ask yourself about that person. Now, please don't anybody leave this Periscope and say, Dr. Portia said you need to get rid of your family and friends. I'm not saying that. But you need to maybe take account of that relationship and see if it's healthy. Is it positive? If it's upbuilding? Is it pushing you forward? Or is it one that continues to drag you down? And if that's the case, you need to make a decision about what you want to do with that. As I said before earlier, you may have to keep that person at a little distance. So that's one of the ways you deal with those persons that are close to you. Going back to that disempowering, I gave you 3 tips. So I'm just going to review those before I close out for today. I've been on a little longer than later. You guys are giving me some great questions, so I'm trying to respond to them even as I'm reading them and listening to them. I mean, not listening to them, but even as I'm reading and they're popping up on my screen. But one of the things, 3 things. Number 1, rest, release, and trust. That's the first thing you want to do in disempowering disappointment. Number 2, look at what you've learned, what the good that's come out of it, the positive that's come out of it. And number 3, look at the change that you may need to make in yourself, in your life, in yourself, just for your good, not necessarily to correct that disappointment. I thank all of you guys that have joined me and have signed on. I'm so appreciative of it. I will be back on Wednesday if you want to read more. What if I can't find something positive? Okay, so what if you can't find something positive? Let me think about that for a minute, because I'm of the belief that when I say positive, I don't mean a big thing or great thing. Maybe the positive that you survived the disappointment. that you came out of it and you're not totally destroyed and totally just wiped out. That you're not able to get up in the morning and continue to do life and to continue to go about whatever it is that you have to do for that day. That may be the one positive thing that you can find. I'm not talking about any great big thing like, oh, suddenly I got this great revelation that I'm going to have this great business, or I'm going to do these great things here on the earth, or I'm going to impact the world. It may be something simpler. Hey, I went through that and it was difficult. It was hard. It cost me some tears. I was crying. My heart was broken. My mind was messed up. And yet I am still standing. I am still alive. I am still able to go forward and make decisions and make a change in my life. Okay, you guys will make me put on my glasses. Okay, is there a first day on Periscope? Okay, welcome. For those who are their first day on Periscope, it may be something as simple as that as far as the positive. So when I say look for the positive, I'm not talking about something tremendous. It's those simple things. Those things a lot of times we take for granted. Okay, it may be that you woke up the next day from that disappointment and it wasn't long lasting, that it actually was a short-lived event. It may be that you went through that disappointment, that time where your expectation was not met, and it totally didn't destroy your life. It may be that you went through that time of disappointment, and looking back right now, it may have just be something new. It may be a new disappointment, but in the next day or two, you'll realize that if my expectation had been met, it would have really messed me up, or as we like to say on the street, it would have jacked me up. So it may be a variety of things. Don't look for the big stuff. Look for the little stuff, okay? It may be that you went through that time of disappointment and you realize, well, yeah, I did make some mistakes. I did, not do some things quite right there. But I have today to get it right. I have the day to do different. I have the day to go in a different direction. That may be the positive that comes out of your disappointment. Okay? So it may be, and that positive may be that disappointment showed you something about someone that you really didn't know beforehand, that you really needed to know so that you could maybe separate yourself from that individual. Okay? Hello, Bobby. Thank you so much for joining in. So whatever it is, okay? Look for the small stuff, not the big stuff. I thank you guys so much for joining me. I'm Dr. Portia Rawls. I'm a licensed clinical psychologist. The information I provide here is for entertainment. We're not in a therapy relationship, but I hope you find it helpful. I will be back on Wednesday for Wild Wednesday. If you would like to just read more of my blogs and information, you can check out my website, drportiarawls.com. I have my video blogs, but I also have some written blogs. I've been doing this about a year or so. Check out my profile. Look forward to seeing, hopefully, each of you joining me on Wednesday. Take care. God bless.